welcome back to my channel. So today I have another Sims 4 speed build for you, and I decided to tackle the lilsimsie welcome shell challenge. Basically, lilsimsie created a shell, I downloaded it, and you're not supposed to touch the walls. You can add roofs, you can add half walls, you can put walls on the inside of the build. You just can't really change the structural integrity of the exterior walls. And so other than that, I could kind of do whatever I wanted to, and I decided to do a home for this. And I basically decided which way was going to be the front and then just kind of went from there. And you can see I grabbed that really beautiful burgundy door, and that basically decided the color scheme for this whole home. And you may have recognized the Sims in that little video earlier, and those would be the goths. And during my stream, so I actually did this over on Twitch, I was talking, to the people in my chat, and someone was like, you know what, this is like the goths' new home, and you know what? That's what it became. That's what I kept thinking about, and I was like, that would be so great. I can use them in my screenshots and in the little videos I take of the Sims for the build, and I was so excited about this. And like I said, red became the whole color here, which makes a whole lot of sense. We do add in a lot of black, gray, white, and I do throw in a little bit of a teal blue, and honestly, it looks fantastic. I was so excited. I found a rug once we get on the inside, and shocker, it became an inspiration for the rest of the home. But you can see here I'm just creating these kind of little balcony areas. A lot of them I actually used as planters, and I put hedges up there, and then this one particular flowering plant that for the life of me I cannot remember the name of, but it ended up looking really nice. And I actually used hedges everywhere. I don't think I've ever used this many hedges combined for all of my builds ever, but it looked so cool here, especially from the top down view. I'll be sure to include that as a screenshot later because it just looked so interesting to me. And we do actually end up using the top of the build as a nice rooftop gathering area, and I feel like the whole build is pretty sophisticated looking, and there's a lot of art. It's a little more contemporary instead of looking like the normal goth house, but I just thought it was such a cool idea. But it was interesting trying to figure out how I wanted to actually paint the exterior of the house, because I didn't want it to be all one color, and then I was like, I want to have some black pieces, but how, because of all of the contours of this build, trying to decide which pieces were going to be black and then which pieces will inevitably be red. A little bit later on, you'll see me pick the swatch for that. It became just a whole thing, but it turned out, I think, so great. We do put in a little driveway, and honestly, the backyard is luxurious. We have the pool, we have actually I used a lot of stuff from the Desert Luxe kit in the backyard, so the fireplace, the grill, the bar, and some of the seating, and it looks so great out there. And honestly, I really liked all these balcony areas, whether I used it as a balcony. Two of them I used as a balcony, and the other ones I used as planters. And the only part that was a little bit difficult for this build was actually when I went to do the second floor. So, and also when I put the stairs in, because obviously when you put stairs in a 2-story home, it decides kind of where you're going to put stuff on the second floor. And honestly, that's usually the hardest part for me when I do 2-story builds. And so I did cut out some of the footage when we actually get to doing the stairs, because I spent a lot of time trying to figure out what we wanted to do. We tried doing 2 sets of stairs, 1 big stair. How do we deal with that and still make the upstairs functional? Especially because at this point I had already decided where I was going to put balconies. So there were already doors there. That was set in stone. I can't move those. So trying to figure out where to put the stairs so that you can still get to everything in the second floor was a whole entire thing. And honestly, when I started and put the stairs in, I was like, you know what, maybe I'll just make the second floor just a giant suite bedroom kind of thing, and then put a bathroom up there, and it just be really big and luxurious. And then, after I already placed the stairs and I was in the middle of decorating the downstairs, is when somebody mentioned the idea of it being a goth home. So then I decided when we get to the second floor that I needed 3 bedrooms and a bathroom, and to my surprise, I actually figured out a floor plan that worked. It honestly took so much time to figure out because it was cramped up there, but we did figure it out, and we had this very interesting shaped bathroom, which you'll see a little bit later on. But I know I'm talking about that second floor. We haven't even gotten on the inside yet, but really I was so excited when I actually figured that out. And you can see right there in the front on that second floor, we have that really pretty like red flowering plant with those hedges. And someone in chat was like, well, why don't you make the stairs like open to the second floor? So that's exactly what we do. And it looks so gorgeous from up there, like so beautiful. You can see all of those plants through those windows on the upstairs, and it's just like, it's so cool looking. I really liked it a whole lot. And you can see them there just a little bit, but it just looks so cool. You know, like you see sometimes people put like trees in the middle of builds and like put glass around it and everything like that. And it looks really neat, to be honest. And I decided to go with marble basically everywhere in this house because I don't know, it just was speaking to me, I guess, when I was building. And you can see I kind of made this really random room, and because of the way the upstairs was shaped, it kind of determined how that was going to look. And I, a little bit later on, figure out actually what I'm going to put there. But it did take me a minute. I basically ignored it for a little while and then came back to it. And I wasn't sure whether we were going to block off the underside of the stairs or what we were going to do with that, but we do actually end up using that space, which I was really excited about. And this kitchen, at this point, I was like, you know what, let's just use some burgundy. And I end up actually putting in a shelf there. You can see there's like a space between those two pieces of counter, and I end up sizing up a shelf and putting it in between them, and that looked so cool. But unfortunately, the colors just didn't match quite right. So we do get rid of that, but I do replace it with something else and not with counters. So I think it was still a really cool accent area in this kitchen. And I think it still looks really neat. And your Sims can still get to everything, use everything, cook, and all of that good stuff. And as usual, when I was taking screenshots, I effectively play tested this build. And so it's already up on the Sims 4 gallery under my ID, Spice and Sprinkles, all one word, all lowercase, and down in the description if you want to see it written out. So feel free to download this if you would like to and enjoy it, change it, redecorate it, whatever you want to do. You know, doesn't hurt my feelings at all. And obviously play with this home however you see fit with whatever family you have in The Sims. And so in here too, we do end up changing out the backsplash like tile in here too, because I think I decided it was just a little bit too dark and heavy in there. And at this point, we still hadn't introduced the icy like teal blue that you're gonna see here in a second. And honestly, I just found a rug that I just really liked. I think I ended up sorting maybe by like red rugs, and I ended up finding this really cool abstract one that I loved so much, and that just changed the whole direction of the build. And I love those really cool looking windows there. I thought that was like exactly, even when I was doing the outside, I was like, that's exactly where the dining room's gonna go, because I just feel like that would be such a cool space. And then we found those awesome chairs from actually the bowling pack, along with that furry chair, which someone in chat did talk me out of using the furry chairs in the dining room. They're like, maybe not. So don't worry, I do use it somewhere else, but it's just not in the dining room. We actually end up using it for a little book reading nook underneath the stairs. Oh my gosh, I was so excited. Somebody in chat suggested doing that, like having like a little book nook underneath the stairs, and it is the cutest thing. Like, I love it so much, and your Sims can get to it. When I was building it, I was like, I don't know if this is actually going to be functional, but it's going to look really nice. And when I was taking screenshots, sure enough, you can get to the chair, you can read under there, and it's just like so cool. And I was so happy that we did figure out something to do so I didn't have to put a wall up there and kind of close off that space, because it didn't feel quite right for this home, if that makes sense. And you can kind of see that little nook right there off the dining room. And I actually end up putting a piece of art in there, and it's just a sculpture, but I do end up swapping it out for something different, for an item I think it came with Spa Day, but I feel like I've never seen before. Shocker. I feel like I've been saying that a lot lately, like I didn't know this item existed. But I do swap it out, but we do use that in the living room actually. And so here we're working on that little book nook. So adding in that rug, we do swap the rug out because, and I do work on this for a little while because there was just something a little bit off about it, you know what I mean? Like it wasn't quite right. So we swapped wallpaper a couple of times and all of that kind of good stuff. We do end up, I think, pulling the red into the living room. I can't remember if we actually left it there. I will say the icy blue caused some problems because there aren't a lot of shades like that in the game. Like, I love that color so much and I love that accent, but it was a very hard color to match. And so it definitely created some issues when I was doing the living room, trying to pick items. So you'll see me swap out a lot of items, change up wallpaper several times, trying to make it work. And I use that really neat like wall light in there because, again, I feel like this house has a lot of like artistic touches in it, artistic pieces, and I felt like that speaks to that kind of style. And I do end up actually using in the foyer area, I do use that really cool piece of art that's like in the 4 pieces. And I ended up using it in a swatch that I've never used before. And I'm so excited I was able to use it. I always use this swatch that has like the face on it. Makes sense. When you put it up, I think you'll know what I'm talking about. I feel like if you have not seen this item, you're probably like, okay, what, Rachel, what are you talking about? But we do end up putting that in the foyer, and I do finally figure out what to do with this space. So I actually make this a half bath along with a laundry room. So I figured that room was just way too big just for a bathroom. Like, there's just too much space there. So I thought I would divide it up, but I knew I wanted a bathroom downstairs. But I thought, you know what, laundry could be really cool here as well. So I put that sliding door in. I don't know why, it just felt like it should be there as the way to get into the laundry room. And it's a pretty outfitted laundry room, and I found that gorgeous like burgundy sink for this half bath. I was so excited on stream when I found it. I was like, I didn't know this existed. This is beautiful. We end up using it upstairs too. And at this point, I also figured out that Spa Day has a lot of that really pretty burgundy. And so I feel like a decent amount of Spa Day stuff in here just because we had access to that really pretty swatch. And we don't put a ton in here, but actually this bathroom ends up being pretty spacious, even though like it's kind of a weird shape, but I really like it actually. I think it came out really well. And for this laundry room, I do mess around a little bit with where I wanted to put things, but ultimately we end up putting the washer and dryer over there. And I believe I actually do use that trick I was using in the kitchen of sizing up a shelf and putting that on top, kind of like a counter space. And I tried to use the cabinets from the kitchen, but what I realized was you can see through the cabinet doors and there's dishes in there. So it just looked a little bit weird. So I didn't want to use that in, you know, the like, no, I was about to say living room, not the living room, the laundry room, because it just wouldn't fit there, right? Having a bunch of, you know, plates inside of a laundry room, like it just, no thank you. So anyways, we put in here just a few things. Like I feel like maybe they put their shoes there, kind of like a mud room maybe. Like maybe they come in from that door right there is actually to the backyard, and maybe they put shoes there and things like that so they don't track stuff all over the house. And then just putting some cleaners in there, but honestly just keeping it a fairly open space. And your Sim still can get in there and all of that kind of good stuff. And somebody in chat was like, why don't you make that space a coffee bar? And I was like, yes, that is genius. We're doing it. And I think it's the first time I've ever put like a coffee bar in a Sims house, but I love it so much. I think it's also the first time I've used that espresso machine because it requires both pieces, and I just never want to give up that much counter space. But since it was kind of off to the side, I was like, that's amazing. Yes. And I actually just bought a like milk frother for my iced coffee. I love iced coffee. Like every morning I have an iced coffee. Like half the time that I'm editing these, I have an iced coffee on my desk with me. Like it's so good. And I literally that morning of doing this build, I had just bought a milk frother so I can make like a very over the top iced coffee. Like no, it's not necessary, but I wanted to. And just as a verdict, I did actually use it the day I'm editing now, and I love it. I love having that like fluffy, foamy milk on my iced coffee. And I know we just went on a tangent, but I just thought it was really funny. They were like, oh, use a coffee bar, and I had just bought like this ridiculous item for my kitchen. I never thought I'd get one, but I love it so much actually. So like I said, we took out that shelf and we put in this marble like table thing, and I just thought that looked really cool. And you still have plenty of room to cook and all of that kind of good stuff, so you don't really have like an issue there. And then for the living room, I did cut out some footage because I spent a lot of time filtering by black, red, white, and blue trying to find furniture for this space. But I do end up finding a coffee table that matches the blue, and that ends up kind of being the pop of blue color in this space. And I end up actually using a bright red couch, I believe, and black chairs. Like this Honestly, it took a little while to come together, but I really like the way it turned out. It's definitely, I feel like maybe not like my normal kind of living room, but I think it looked really cool here. And honestly, I really love the screenshots that came out of that. I know I say that all the time, but this was just a really neat build. And honestly, having a shell where you're confined into how you can use that space, like, it's actually a really nice challenge without it being like a super ridiculous challenge. You know what I mean? Like, you just build, you just, decorate however you want to, but you just can't do anything with the walls, versus having to do like color challenge and all those other kind of challenges, which, don't get me wrong, are a lot of fun. And I do have an inverted build challenge that'll be coming up on the channel soon, but anyways, I know I'm going again off on a tangent. I'm telling you, this is what happens when I stream for like 5.5 hours, 2 days in a row. My brain starts just like going all over the place. And so I did stream for like almost 5.5 hours doing this. Not quite as long as my pumpkin build, but I was there for a while. Again, I think some of that was just like I got really into it, and talking with chat was just a whole lot of fun. And then trying to make all of those colors work in here definitely took a little bit of time. And I don't know if I've already said this already, but if you want to join me over on Twitch, I would love to have you come chat with me. You can find that the link in the description down below, and you can follow me over there so you know when I go live. And my schedule right now is actually Tuesdays at 6 p.m. and Wednesday, Thursday at 3 p.m. And that is all in Eastern time. So, if you're available, come, check out stream. It's a whole lot of fun. And I do, unfortunately, like I said, Tuesday is a little bit later. I have a research meeting that I go to until like 5:30. So I don't start streaming until 6. Otherwise, I probably have a standard schedule, but I think it's kind of nice though. I think it gives more people chances to tune in if they would like to. And so this is up on the landing, and I cut basically all of the floor plan work out because it took such a long time, and I was so determined that I was going to make it work. We were going to make this house for the Goth family, and there was going to be enough space. So there is only one bathroom upstairs, but there's a half bath downstairs, so your Sims probably should be fine. Usually I feel like if I had this many Sims in a house, I would have 2 full baths, but you know what? This is what we had to work with because of the shell, and you know what? I think it turned out really great. And I know this bathroom it's just a weird shape, but I think it looks really cool actually, having the shower over in the corner, and you have that nice partition, because let's be honest, I feel like with all those Sims, you're probably going to have multiple Sims in the bathroom at the same time. So it's nice having that little partition there. I don't think that necessarily will help with the embarrassment, but it feels more private, I guess. And again, pulling a lot of pieces out of Spa Day. So I've got this stack of towels, and then that little plate of lotions or whatever those are. I honestly am not sure, just being a decorative item, but we do end up putting that on the counter as well. And I don't use the curtains I've been using all over the house because it just felt like it would take up too much room and cover up the whole window. So I just used that one instead. I figured you would just pull it down if you were like actually using the bathroom or something. And here we have our sculpture of that peacock, because again, I felt like there would just be a lot of art in this house. And I ended up putting like a mirror over there. I think that helps with the space. Like, it just feels a little more open there. And I created quite the landing. Like, it looks very interesting. And you can see here that this is actually going to be Bella and Mortimer's room. And so, in all honesty, I was a bad simmer. I could not remember the children's names of the Goth family. Like, for the life of me while I was streaming, I was like, I can't remember. Oh my gosh, and I feel like I should know this. I kept saying Alexandra. I thought like that was the girl's name, and I couldn't remember the boy's name, but it turns out it's Cassandra and Alexander. Anyways, but when I just thought it was really funny, I really was like racking my brain trying to remember it, and I couldn't. But not that it's that big of a deal, but I just feel like they're such an iconic family that I should have remembered that. And we had some talk about like what the backstory of the Goths were, and honestly, I just don't know a lot about it. I feel like I've heard at some point that like Bella had been kidnapped by aliens or something. Like, I don't remember. Let me know down in the comments if you actually keep up with a lot of the Sims lore. I honestly have not. But anyways, I'm just curious if that's something that you keep up with. And I feel like it would be fun to know a little more about like the Sims, especially like, your iconic Sims. And anyways, we just end up putting another little seating area in here. And yes, I did use that furry chair again. I took the chance I had and used it again, but also just as a way to bring in that blue color into their bedroom. And I used a few decorative pieces also to bring in that blue color so it all wraps together really nicely in this home. And honestly, this room ends up being pretty open, and it does have a very interesting shape, so it took me a second to figure out where am I going to put a dresser. And then I do end up also putting a mirror in here, and your Sims can get by the dresser. I was worried about that, like, can you get into the room, can you get out to the balcony? But it does work out. And the balcony for this, it originally was supposed to be open to everybody, but because of the floor plan, it ends up just being through the parents' bedroom. But I mean, I figured that kind of makes sense, like that they save the balcony for themselves. And the other balcony is actually the way to get upstairs into the like rooftop area. I end up putting a ladder up there so you can get up there, and all I have up there is actually just going to be a seating space, but of course you can edit it. And this ends up being the kids' rooms, and they're a little small, I will say, but everything fits in there. I use the walk-in wardrobe in each of them, even though honestly, like, they're not necessary, but I just feel like they would each have one. And I don't know, I feel like they don't necessarily spend a lot of time in there anyways, but each of them kind of has their own personality. And I'm not gonna lie, I just didn't know a lot about the goth kids, so I went back and forth about what I wanted. So one of the rooms is a little more red, the other one's is more black, and I ended up doing Alexander's ends up being I did it again. No, that was right. Alexander's ends up being the black one, and Cassandra's ends up being red. And so I went back and forth a lot about the wallpaper, how to wrap in the beds, because I really like the beds we chose, but just trying to figure out what wallpaper would go with it, and then what kinds of things would be in the room with them. So I end up using, in Cassandra's room, I end up using the creepy version of Blarfy in there, the one that kind of looks like a skeleton. I don't know if its name is still Blarfy or if it's something else, but I end up putting that in there, and then that little poof as the end table, which I think ended up looking really cute in there. And I put the like mirror that has all the light bulbs on it and some pictures on the wall, and I feel like it was very teen-esque like decorations. And then I put this, honestly, what looks like a transformer like decal on the wall for Alexander. I don't know if he's into that, but I don't know, I just thought it looked cool, so I put it in there. And then I squeezed a lot of stuff in this room. I put a little table in the corner with a stack of like books and papers and stuff. And then we end up actually putting a lot of music stuff in Alexander's room. Like, I have the kids' violin and that weird looking cat radio that we got recently. I think, was that the high school pack or was that the like little campers kit? I can't remember, but I end up putting that in his room as well, along with just a little bit of clutter. And I do put a little splash of red in there too. And I end up putting a like nerdy poster in both of them. Alexander is going to be into chemistry and Cassandra is into, I think it was math. I think I put the math poster in her room. Again, I don't know much about them, but that's what we decided to do when we were building this. And then this is me putting up this ladder, and I end up actually just taking out that piece of wall because I was like, I'll figure this out when I do screenshots, like how I need to actually fix the roof. But I didn't want to get rid of that piece because I really liked it. So I just got rid of the one singular piece by the ladder, so your Sims can get up there and that's not a problem at all. And on the parents' balcony, I just put a little seating area, and basically that's it for that space. And I'm realizing that somehow I got a bunch of wallpaper from the inside on the outside. I do that all the time, but I do get rid of it so you don't have to worry about it. And then I just put this really large seating area here, and that's it. I didn't put anything else. I thought about putting some skill building stuff up here, but I just left it as like a gathering area, and then put some hedges up there as well as some of those red flowers up here, just kind of in all of those little like nooks and corners to fill in some of that space. And I think it looks really cool up here. And we do actually end up using those lamp chess pieces. I can't remember what those came with, maybe Get Together, but I actually used them in this build. I use them at the very end of the build, but I do put some of those up here as well, and I just think it looks pretty neat up here. And of course, every time I drew one of those fences, it messed up the paint, and then I decided to add more, so then I added another fence, and then I messed up the paint again. It was a whole thing. Like, how many times I had to replace that wallpaper is pretty insane. But anyways, that's about it for the rooftop area. Like I said, really simple, but a really nice space to hang out if you were to have company over. And now basically we're entering the backyard, or hedge city is what it became. I don't think I've ever used this many hedges before, but I think it looks really neat. Like I ended up doing this like tiered looking thing going on here, and we do end up using that tall fence that we used around like the driveway around the backyard as well, so it's very private. You know, they can go and hang out and not have to worry about, you know, people coming over, and just being able to see into their backyard for the most part. So then adding just kind of like almost like a privacy hedge around the back, and then I end up wanting to put like a hot tub in here. I mean, this really is a fantastic backyard. And we have this really cool long pool. I end up putting these little like spouting fountains that spray into the pool. I do that there in a little bit, and it looks really neat. I also put the like bubble maker things at the bottom of the pool too. Ever since I realized that was a thing, I like putting those in builds because I just feel like that looks really fancy. And I end up trying to map out what all the space is going to look like, and then that tells me then where I need to landscape. And so you can see here I'm starting the maze of hedges. So I made some smaller there in the front, and I just thought that looked really cool. And then on this other piece of this grass, I end up doing 3 layers of hedges, so definitely adding something a little different and a little bit interesting. I've not really done that before, but I think it just looked really cool. And then adding a few more of those red flowers here, because I just feel like that color is just so signature for the goths and just looked really good with this house. And then we're just going to add in a nice seating area, a grill, a bar, a fireplace, and some loungers, all of which that came from the Desert Luxe kit, because I don't know, it just felt very like clean and contemporary, and I just felt like that's what would be out in this backyard. And we end up doing some splashes of red here and there outside, and it looks so cool. And we do actually end up putting some strings like of lights up on the fence. So actually my mom was in chat for Twitch, and she was like, put string lights on the fence, and it looks really cool. So also, if you want to say hey to my mom, she's also in the Twitch chat, so you're welcome to come by and say hello. And so I kind of cut all that out because I figured you didn't need to see me like put up a billion string lights, because it definitely took a minute, but it looks so cool, and I feel like it was so worth it. And I feel like I'm just going to keep doing that in the future. And so again, just putting a few finishing touches on this backyard space and just making it super cozy and like just a fun place to hang out. I feel like I got some awesome screenshots out here with the goth family. And then, like I said, we do add in those chess pieces out here, which are like those lamps that, like I said, I don't think I've ever used, but they looked really cool out here, and I like the way they turned out. And we do end up putting a little like end table by the hot tub with like a drink tray and some towels, like supplies over there, like real spa-like in this area. And I think it looked really neat, actually, just really luxurious. And as we're coming to the end of the video, your screenshots are going to be here in just a second, so be sure to stick around for those. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe if you want to see more like it. I would really appreciate it. And leave comments down below if there's things that you want to see on the channel, or if you just want to say hello. And I hope you have a really sweet day. Bye, everybody.